Hello and welcome to the final race in the Pro Mazda Championship Series here in Season 3 of 2019 on iRacing. And as to how close this is to the end of the season, we have just gotten the build release notes dropped on the iRacing forum. There's some nifty updates coming in the next build, of course highlighted by the new Xfinity cars as well as the new Audi TCR front-wheel drive car that's going to be the touring car fix for so many on the iRacing sim. But first, we got to get to this event, and it's going to be 18 laps around Road America. It is going to be me, myself, and I, Randy Chinnis, bringing you all the action today and working the cameras. Let's look at some track information before we get to our starting grid. We have a full pace lap here, so we have plenty of time to get through this. Of course, Road America, just under 4 miles in length, located in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, one of the most iconic road courses in all of the United States, and definitely probably identified as North America's Spa-Francorchamps, as it has the sort of feel of running through the woods, running through the trees, and all of the high-speed, high downforce corners that track provides. Of course, these little Formula cars, they're going to be putting on quite an amazing show here. You have really, really long straights here relative to everything, and these guys are already going here in this championship. Standing starts in the official series. That's my fault. It's Gonzalo Caceres and Asger Albestrin hit the head of the field. They work down out of turn 1 and in towards turn 3 for the first time. Your race leading cars through and in towards 3 and 4. Fight's going to be on for 4th and 5th on the racetrack. That looks like Richard Colombo in the 4th position. That's my apologies there. We were broadcasting the private league earlier through this season that had rolling starts, and I have completely spaced that these were standing starts in the official series. Down now in towards turn 5. Through the Moraine Suite, this battle for 4th and 5th on the racetrack. Richard Colombo trying to make a move and just sit in line as the fight for 4th and 5th. I believe that was a 3 car that just slipped through, but regardless, Asger Albestrin, who started 2nd, able to wrestle the race lead away from this man, Gonzalo Marcel Caceres, in that opening half a lap. So let's see, down now the hurry downs in towards this tight left-hander, 90 degrees, so difficult to catch that inside curve and get wheel spin. Looks like everyone's going to get through clean, side by side in the background. Davide Villa involved in that fight with the 14 of Anders from. Anders a little bit loose, got down to the inside, coming through the carousel, put those the right tires off onto the grass. They got him a huge bite of oversteer, but he's going to be able to hold on to that race car. Let's check in the fight for the race lead, though, as they work down in towards Canada corner for the first time. The 1 car, Asger Albestrin, who's got the lead, able to stretch an early gap. Here at Road America, we typically expect the slipstream to play hugely into effect, but the sort of gap he has right now over Gonzalo in 2nd, he is nearly on the cusp of being able to break that slipstream here as they work down in towards this final corner for the first time. So out of that final corner and up the front straightaway, up this steep hill, up the front straightaway and under the Caterpillar Bridge. Running order is going to be as they come across the stripe. Currently leading this race, Asger Albestrin, Gonzalo Marcel Caceres in the 2nd spot, Luis Canel in 3rd, Jero Roldan in 4th with Guillaume Exposito. Great start from this driver, started in P10, already up in towards P5 and pressuring the drivers ahead of him. Jero Roldan only 5/10 of a second. He has to hold off over that charging number 2. Now the run once again off of turn 3, through turn 4, that little kink down the Moraine Suite, into the downhill braking zone here at turn 5. The 10 of Gonzalo Caceres still unable to reel that gap in to your race leader. Through this 90-degree left-hander, now up the hill underneath the Corvette Bridge. Going to be a dab of brake, turn it in. You see him really struggling is Gonzalo, trying to keep the car underneath him on the brakes there. It is really easy to upset that car through that bit of racetrack. Now down the hurry downs once again. Going to be braking at about the two board on the right-hand side, maybe 150 in these little cars as all the downforce and how relatively light they are. This entire field slowly starts getting itself strung out. Ricardo Colombo now going to get stacked up with Guillaume Exposito. Exposito, I think, pushed a little fast down the hurry downs into that 90-degree left-hander at the bottom of the hill, and that meant he got a horrible exit. Look at the way they've stacked up on each other because of it. Through the kink, of course, easy flat out in these cars, ton of downforce, they weigh almost nothing. So that's not going to be an issue for any of these guys as in towards Canada corner once again for the 2nd time. your field's going to go. Gap's starting to really stretch out here in the early runnings. Let's see, through Bill Mitchell Bend, near the end of the lap, up ahead. Couple fights still getting close. That's the battle for third and fourth on screen. Lewis Cannell and Jarrow Roldan as they run up the hill once again. Slipstream for third and fourth. We'll have to monitor this gap as they work down, trying to use as much of the slipstream as they can get. We talked about the track situation. It's a little bit cold today, so drivers are going to be able to really run these cars a lot more trimmed out than you might typically expect. On the hotter weather, you might have to stick a little bit more wing into that car. And because of that, that would typically help the slipstream here. Relatively low track temperatures. We'll bring that back up on screen to kind of show you. 82 degrees Fahrenheit, 28 degrees Celsius. That's actually probably a nifty little thing that makes those easily flip-floppable. But because of that, because it's relatively cool, probably going to have the cars trimmed out just a little bit more. Fight on for third, though, as Jarrow Roldan's going to get the run going down the hill in towards turn 5, and he's going to have that clear by about 2 car lengths before he ever gets to the apex. So Lewis Cannell, I think, knowing it's actually Jarrow, gets the big bite of oversteer. I talked about the fact that it's easy to get coming out of that corner, really one of the easy places to make a mistake, and he had it happen here. Replay up on screen of this one. See him working the slipstream right now, running down towards the bottom of the hill. We may have had Gonzalo Caceres make a pass as well. We'll take a look at that in a moment. But you just see, here comes the big bite of oversteer on the exit of the corner. And there it is. That's sort of the prototypical and stereotypical incident off of turn 5, and he's opted to call that done and over with. Gonzalo Caceres has been able to wrestle the race lead away from Asger Albertson. Not sure what happened to Albertson to make that thing, to lose the race lead. Let's see, he's going to fight for it down in towards Canada corner, in towards that corner in the 1 car, not quite able to get up the inside. The 10 aggressively chopping across the nose, taking that line away. Lewis Cannell now in third, really needs to hope that these two start picking it up with each other and start fighting, because look at the gap that we have now from second back to third place. As we'll wait for our timing screens to update when we come across start finish. You'll be able to see the gap in terms of time between second and third. Not going to have the slipstream. But who does have the slipstream? The driver of this 1 car in towards turn 1. Asger Albertson around the outside once again. Can he make this stick? You can often make this move stick if you have the momentum, but look at that. Contact from the 1 car. He got loose around the outside, and that's going to take him out of the battle for the race lead. Replay from that incident coming up on screen. So, oh my word, a drama in this Road America race in the opening 4 laps. One has to wonder, were they a little too aggressive in the first handful of laps? Plenty of slipstream, still plenty of time to go in this race. And watch Asger Albertson down here in towards the first corner. Just gets loose. And now the question is did he contact Gonzalo in any way? So we'll have to see if there's any damage on this number 10. Don't see any cars really around him or charging or making up hand over fist in terms of lap speed just yet. Next driver behind is Lewis Cannell. This is a driver in third that is talking about didn't have a slipstream and was probably going to have to hope that those two started fighting. He got his wish. One of those drivers, of course, now out of the race pretty much. The other one, maybe a little bit damaged at the head of the field. Then you have Guillem Exposito. He was running fourth. The gap here between third and fourth was going to be second and third on the racetrack. And our timing updates, 1.5 seconds between Lewis Cannell and Guillem Exposito. Looks a little bit closer than that. I don't know, maybe if at the last couple of timing beams, if maybe that gap's come down, but it doesn't quite look like it's 1.5 seconds. See, through Canada corner, we'll check this again, and the sim is sticking with that, so we'll have to wait and see when this updates. Our timing not updating until start finish for some reason. Not typically a bug we have to deal with. But regardless, the gap well and truly down the order. Apologies once again. This was the only split I saw when I joined the spectator session. They work down the front straightaway and in towards turn 1 once again. I'll have a quick look. If that's the situation that's happened, I apologize, as there is a pass for position there in towards turn number 1. And that actually seems to be what has happened. So I apologize. So my fault for doing the second split. When I was in the spectator section, I only saw one when the servers launched. That's the first time I've made this mistake in 3 years. So I have to pay respects in that regard, but we'll keep an eye on this. Hugo's not going to be happy with me with that one, but Guillaume Exposito managing to get into the third spot. Ricardo Colombo in the background, falling back also. If it was a longer race, I would hop over to the second split, but I would, oh, actually that driver just losing a motor underneath the Corvette bridge. Who was that? David Villa going up the hill. What has happened to him? I don't know if he had damage before. The engine seems pretty fine running down here. So we'll have to wait and see. Engine, everything kind of sounds okay. Maybe some side pod damage is affecting the cooling. Is there an aggressive downshift up into the top of the hill? Seems to be that way. So, Gonzalo Caceres is going to be the one in the race lead, 1.9 seconds ahead, last time our timing updated, of this man. Actually, no, this man, Guillaume Exposito, has gotten into second spot. Third place belongs to Luis Canal, who's trying to reel in. Guillaume Exposito has been having a great race here. And when I see the SimLab Pro Cup account in the channel, just so you're aware of what happened, when I joined the spectator session, at the time, there was only one split showing. So, my apologies on that. As these guys work their way down in towards turn 3. This gap's starting to open up, and of course this race pretty much cracked wide open. About a handful of your field, the mid-pack, pretty much all spread out as they run. Huge gaps as you can kind of piece together looking at the intervals at the top of the screen. So the fight here is probably going to be the closest one, second and third, between Guillaume Exposito and Luis Canal. Let's check the time between them at the stripe. 8/10 of a second the gap. So Luis Canal going to have great opportunity here to work with the slipstream, and of course that driver behind as well of Richard Colombo going to make things dicey and interesting as well. I will be honest, I was a little bit confused for sure when I was going down some of the drivers. I didn't notice any of the names. Honestly, what I thought was the Sim Racing Expo was happening. I figured a number of the guys, because of course the bulk of the people that compete in this series are European. I figured a bunch of them may have gone to the Expo. So in towards the kink once again is the 5 and the 2. Luis Canal and Guillaume Exposito going to close in on one another. The slipstream for the draft working great down towards Canada Corner. Going to reel in about a car length. Maybe a little bit more than that, but still not quite close enough. The cold weather really making it easy for these guys to keep the things trimmed out, and the slipstream is not as effective as I've typically seen it at this racetrack with these race cars. It's up towards the final sequence of corners. They're getting ready to be 1/3 done with this race. 6 laps down, 12 laps to go this time as they come off that final corner, turn 14. Down the front straightaway in towards turn 1 once again. Still these drivers second, third, and fourth, easily the closest out there on the racetrack. There's another sort of battle a little bit deeper down. This is about a second and some change. As I misclicked there, wanted to focus on this driver of Bob Karst. So it's Bob Karst in the back. They're currently running in 9th, and Finn Peets about a second and some change between them, but that's closed up dramatically. That Benetton car really not having the pace over the 9 here, the 6 and the 9. You can place your memes there if you so wish. Let's see, off the final corner for Bob Karst. He's going to have a run. Seems like Finn Peets really not having great speed here tonight. Under the Caterpillar Bridge, down the front straightaway, and Bob not using the slipstream early like I think he would have wanted to. Maybe he's just keen on sitting here in the draft, being patient. Does he duck out on the brakes in towards turn number 1? Seems like the answer to that question is going to be no. They're going to stay in line. So turn 3 once again, the 9 car off of turn 3 and down the Moraine sweep straightaway. this time through the turn 4. Do they go for the move once again? I think Bob Cars is just going to sit and chill. The fight first, second, third, fourth on the racetrack really spread out. 5 seconds now separating your top 4 cars. So we'll check in on Mr. Bob Cars. He's pressuring this number 6 car of Finn Peets. As you can see, he's just sort of slotting himself offline everywhere. I don't really think Bob is that aggressive about moving his way forward. It's another 10 or so seconds up the road until you get to the driver running in 7th of Jose Miguel Lopez. Ooh, you see that 9 car, bit of contact between them, and the 6 car is going to go around. What in the world happened here? I'm not sure. It looked like Bob got into the back of him, but I'm not exactly sure what happened. It was the driver ahead of Finn Peets that ended up going around. So let's see, through this left-hander at the bottom of the hill, Bob Cars going to pick the throttle up, and maybe some differences in aero levels. Let's see what happens here. Was it a mistake from the driver ahead that started this? And it seemed like there was a big speed difference between the two of them. I want to get a ride on board with Finn Peets. He looked like he was really struggling with that race car. I want to watch his wheel inputs as he was going through the carousel. And there was a big speed difference. There's about a car length and a half, 2 car lengths that Bob Cars closed in before he ever got to the back of this driver. So let's see, through the carousel, listen to the engine note. Maybe struggling tight, but he wasn't really sawing at the wheel, definitely wasn't fighting loose. So unfortunate there, that incident there between Finn Peets and Bob Cars. So it's going to move Bob up in the A spot, and it is going to take away the closest fight we have on the racetrack by quite a while. This driver in 3rd, currently part of what is the 2nd closest with about a second and some change. Actually makes that 2 seconds separating him and the driver behind of Richard Colombo. And about another second and a half to this driver in 2nd, Guillaume Exposito. But it's been this man who's been the man of the race. Led early, was on pole position, actually lost the lead early. Was able to wrestle it back before Asger Albertstrand started on the outside pole. Trying to fight it back after losing the race lead. In towards turn 1, got loose, and those two made contact. So can there be a late race charge? We know the tire wear on these cars is usually pretty solid. We don't generally see drivers start struggling hardcore with tire wear in the late stages of a race. So the gap's going to have to come down to maybe drivers struggling with setup, something along those lines to bring these gaps down and in. And of course, drivers potentially make a mistake, but this is going to be the closest fight on track right here. 1.6 seconds at the line this past time between Lewis Cannell and Richard Colombo. And you know what? Let's ride on board with Richard for a little bit of RaceSpotTV fan immersion. See how this gap is ebbing and flowing across the lap. Fights for position starting to pick up, I think, ahead of this driver. You see the gap there. Actually, yes, that is a fight for the race lead. So something happened to Gonzalo over the lap that saw him lose the race lead. And now Lewis Cannell in command of the field from that second spot. I'd rewind the cameras with the fight for the lead picking up again. Here comes the 10 of Gonzalo Caceres in down turn 5. Well, he's going to have that race lead easy over that number 5 car of Lewis Cannell. Through turn 5 down, the gap starts opening up. We'll rewind the cameras back a minute. Went sight unseen as to what the actual incident was between the two. Oh, and there it was. A little bit of a half spin down there at the bottom of the hill. I was just trying to confirm that the running order they were in there in the replay. We'll have a look-see what exactly happened to Mr. Caceres here. So through the hurry downs into this tight left-hander and just a little bit too hot. And that's a stressful moment for a driver who had such a big lead in this race. Was probably the shoe-in to win it. And while even though he's gotten that race lead back, things a lot tighter than they used to be as Lewis Cannell went out well within a second. And that means well within the slipstream as they run in towards Canada Corner. No move going to be on here. I don't think surely. And again, for sure, indeed, through Canada Corner, no move on. But the 5 car of Luis Cannell should be able to just sit in this slipstream and just wait as through Bill Mitchell Bennett in towards the final corner at turn 14. And down the front straightaway for the 10th time they will go. End of the 10th time there off that final corner, starting their 11th trip down towards turn 1. The 5 car, maybe running a little bit more aero, maybe just not as good off the corners, not able to use that slipstream as efficiently as I might have guessed. As through turn number 1, these guys are going to go, and Gonzalo Caceres already starting to eke that gap out. We'll take a look off the gearbox, and you can see the way the gap's already looking. It was about half a second not that long ago. It's currently out to 7/10, and I think that gap is growing slowly by the moment here. As actually the fight might be on for that second spot. Look at Richard Colombo down in towards through turn 4 at Mooring Sweep and in towards turn 5, the 4. Deep on the brakes, maybe a momentary lockup, and they're both going to go wide at turn 5. That's going to gift that second spot to the 4 of Richard up in towards the Corvette Bridge, and actually, no, doesn't go for it. Somewhat curious there. I would have thunk that the move would have been on there with the mistake down in towards turn 5. We'll watch that on board again with Richard. Rewind the cameras back just a little bit further. So it's going to be Lewis Cannell out ahead of you. That's going to make the initial incident here. And I have a feeling Richard just kind of follows him off into the lockup. He sees initially a little bit too hot in. And they both, I think, maybe just getting a bigger bite of the slipstream than they were before. But Richard, I think seeing the fact that Lewis had to re-merge back onto the racetrack in front of him was just kind of being nice and let him back in. See that number 6 in the background? That's lap traffic, letting your leaders through. The gap opening up between first and second. It was about 7/10 of a second as they came off of turn 3, I would reckon. So let's see what it is this time when they eventually cross start finish through turn 14 and up the hill once again. The gap between the race lead, I mean, it's grown immensely. Gonzalo Caceres just has a huge amount of pace over these two drivers right here in second and third. Let's check what the gaps are. And remember, 0.6 of a second last time. It's out to 2 seconds. So the driver, that number 10, immense speed to be able to that easily break the draft and get out there. Of course, these two did make mistakes, but irregardless of that, Gonzalo has been absolutely flying out there thus far. As we're going to be 6 laps to go this next time through. So let's see, through the Mooring Sweep once again. Colombo trying to bring in any time he can. Still, obviously, doesn't seem too aggressive. Remember that moment about 2 laps ago? Or actually last time around, excuse me. They had that mistake. Both had that mistake down at turn 5. And Richard definitely had the opportunity to get up the inside and did not take it. He just let that 5 car cycle back into line. So how aggressive are they really going to be with one another? Are they just I mean, this is second split overall, let's be honest. They may just want to be taking their safety rating and the I rating gains they get, moving on to the next one, especially Gonzel Marcio Caceres. Number 10 car coming into this split. It's going to be a nice little batch of iRacing heading his iRating, heading his way. Compare that to Asger Albertson, who qualified second and just missed out on pole position and just missed out on the top split. He will finish this race currently scored P13. If he actually went out there and did a lap, he'd be scored P11. There's 2 cars currently 6 laps down. Let's see, through Canada Corner once again, Bill Mitchell Bend coming up next. Used to be a bridge that went across the racetrack here that was removed. Definitely a huge safety hazard. And now look at that number 4 of Richard Colombo. All over the back of Lewis. Run off the final corner, and actually Lewis Cannell, is he coming down pit road? Yes, he is. I think he may have underfueled the race car. So problems for Lewis Cannell is going to gift this second spot to Richard Colombo. And we'll have to wait and see what exactly has happened to this driver. And see what the plan is for him. That's pretty much the last fight we had out there on the racetrack, done, dusted, and over with. You see another driver actually heavy damage in the 7. That's Georges Elliman. Seems like he's going to get back out there on the racetrack. There is one driver scored on the same lap as him, 1 lap down, and then a couple drivers scored 1 lap only up the road. So he could get some stuff, and it looks like an underfueling issue certainly was the cause there. And there's Frum in pit road as well, so it may be a situation that these guys have to come down pit road for fuel, but I wouldn't think that'd be typical for an 18-lap race. So maybe some of our top split aficionados will let me know if there's a refuel required here, because I wouldn't have thought it. I've been so busy with some other stuff that's been going on, chasing technical issues I've been struggling with. So the gap for your race lead now, 4 seconds. Between Gonzalo and Colombo. Is in towards Canada Corner. That this is, by the way, is not Richard Colombo. That is a lap traffic car. That is Bob Carse. We were watching him a little bit earlier before the drama he got involved in. Actually, the fight may be closing up a little bit between these two. Nope, never mind. I take that back. The gap was close at the stripe, and it was about 2 seconds, but I think one of those cars is rolling down pit road at the time as another car hits pit lane. Actually, 2 of the cars hitting pit road. So it looks like a pit stop is required here today. So everyone comes down pit road. So approximately a gallon of fuel is what's required here. So down the pit road, and let's see your race leader. I believe it was approximately 8 seconds for that first car, Lewis Cannell, when he came down pit road. And our timing bugged out, so that's great. It was actually the 2 car, Guillaume Exposito, into the race lead. Pit stop time for him. We won't have the stop time for Caceres, but 41.2 is the time in the lane. 40.1 for Gonzalo, so somehow he ends up losing that race lead to this driver in the 2. I assume, just looking at the pit stop times, I think Guillaume was just better going up the hill. And probably on the brakes getting in towards pit road, because if you look at this, Gonzalo was actually quicker through the pit lane. A lane time of 40.1 seconds. You compare this to this driver, Guillaume Exposito, 41.2. That tells me the 2 car was just either way better off pit road, or excuse me, onto pit road off the racetrack. Probably pushed it a lot harder on the brakes, but man, this is a huge opening he's opened up for himself over Gonzalo. Richard Colombo is also pretty much cycled out into the same line, so I'm not exactly sure what happened to Gonzalo through that pit stop sequence, but it was not good, considering we're in the final 5 laps of this race now. Going to be 4 to go next time at the stripe. number of Split 1 participants I see in the chat, I'm starting to believe it's a good thing that this is the split I saw available to me in the spectator sessions. Despite the fact that there has been a lot of drama up and down the field. Another fight that's forming up, the 12 and the 14. Jose Miguel Lopez and Anders Fromm. That's from the pit stop sequence. That's closed up nicely. Gap between these two. Well, it's definitely not 2 seconds. That'll update when they get to start-finish. But a potential fight to watch. Looking at the head of the field. Oh, what's happened to Gonzalo? Big dramas, it looks like, through Bill Mitchell Bend for the 10 car. Let's see, is it just a classic mistake of pushing wide? No, he just gets loose at the apex. Noses and then backs that car into the outside wall. And that's going to be heartbreak there for Gonzalo Caceres, driver who's looking so good in this race. Had a huge advantage at one point, then had a half spin, cycled down the running order. And in this incident, once again, I believe he may have lost contention for the race win just with the way the pit stop sequence sort of went down, but now he loses out on second, so it's going to be this driver. And we'll bring up the positions gained and lost tab on the left side of your screen. And look at Guillaume Exposito, up 9 spots. He started this race in 10th, and he leads here coming towards 3 laps remaining in this event at Road America. It's going to be about the last of our fights that kind of ends up getting taken away from us. Everything on the racetrack separated by about 5 to 10 seconds at least. 10 seconds currently the gap between your top two. Another 5 seconds back to third. 18 seconds back to fourth. Another 14 seconds back to fifth. 10 to sixth. 19 seconds, seventh to eighth. 30 seconds, sixth to seventh. I can't remember if I said that one. 20 seconds, eighth to ninth. And then after that, you start getting drivers 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 laps down. For this man here, he's going to be loving this. Only about 6 minutes or so left to go in this race if you estimate for approximately a 2-minute lap time. 2 minutes, 15 seconds, throw it in that window. He'll be a nice little second split winner here in the 2 car after coming off a horrible qualifying result, qualifying P10 and rebounding nicely. See him wiping the virtual sweat off his virtual brow in terms of the I rating. Goes from being stuck in mid-pack and probably looking at a loss to winning this race. Probably getting a nice little bit of chunk of points as well. See if Gonzalo is able to actually get that car back out on the racetrack. Seems like currently the answer is no, as we ride on board with Lewis Cannell down towards turn 5 and through the Moraine sweep once again. Oh no! I've taken a swig of water and Lewis Cannell has just lost his motor. Second time we've had this happen, and both times I was pointing the cameras at him. What in the world happened to Lewis? It's just on the downshift. Just a half of a second early for Lewis Cannell is going to take him out of this race in the closing stages. That's going to move Richard Colombo up in towards second. But oh my word, I feel I should stop pointing this camera at race cars. We'll just be on board with the safety car for the rest of this event as to not cause any more drivers to pop motors. Because that's the second time that's happened that I've had a camera pointed at someone if they lost a motor. First one, if I remember right, was David Villa. But man, oh man, that has to be damage, I assume, from somewhere out there on the racetrack, if not just the aggressive downshift. If I recall correctly, these Pro Mazdas not having downshift protection like a lot of the modern race cars. Definitely something I think a lot of people have gotten in the habit of, especially with the modern GT3 and GTE machinery, and I believe the Formula Renaults was the 2.0 and the 3.5 and the Formula 3 car as well. You can kind of rifle down the gearbox. From what I recall from my days of wheeling this Pro Mazda car, you couldn't really do that. I know one car that a lot of people are going to be frustrated with the gearbox is going to be that Audi TCR car that's coming with the DSG gearbox. That's another car you can't really rifle down through the gears like you can a lot of modern racing cars and gearboxes and transmissions. That having a production-based DSG direct shifting gearbox in it, not the hot sequential TCR gearbox that most of the other manufacturers use. Of course, Audi and Volkswagen and Seat, they all use the sequentials, but they make two versions of their car, one with it, one with a sequential, one with a DSG. So John's evidently leading P1 even with front wing damage, which tells me that there's craziness happening there. That's odd. Just as there's been craziness happening here. So, and on August the 31st for the Pro Mazda Championship, regardless of the split you're in, is in towards Canada Corner and through the final sector for the penultimate time is going to head Guillaume Exposito up 10 spots. Now if you're him with a 17 second gap, currently is what it is, 16.9 over Richard Colombo. You just got to take it easy on this final lap. No need to be over aggressive on the downshift. Don't want to make the mistake and pop a motor that a couple drivers have had. And they'll see the white flag this time. Flagman in the background not waving it as aggressively as you would typically see in American Oval race, but that's fine. So through turn 1, under the Briggs and Stratton Bridge, and in towards a little light right-hand kink at turn 2, in towards turn 3 for the final time, and now the run through turn 4, the Moraine sweep, and in towards turn 5. The first of two really hard downhill braking zones, of course, here on the lap. See exactly how far these drivers are braking into this corner, even on the final lap. I'm going to say right around the 2. A little bit after the 2, in fact. Then, of course, the next downhill braking zone actually coming up here, not very long. Through this left-hander. Next right-hand kink, depending on your downforce, could be flat out. Probably a slight lift if you're running trimmed out for the race, though. Now towards the bottom of the hill. Hard on the brakes once again. Be careful of rear traction here. Nailed it. And then in towards the carousel for the final time. Balance the throttle, balance the nose, balance the rear. Get late in that corner, and then you want to punch it about 80%, 70% of the way around that corner. Set yourself up for this run down towards Canada Corner. Through the kink for the final time. Looked simple, left a lot of room on the left-hand side, a lot of real estate to work with. Not making any mistakes. Canada Corner for the final time. Another corner that's definitely easy to make mistakes in, but this 2 car looking solid. There's just 2 more corners to go. First one, this fast left-hander, Bill Mitchell bend. He's got it done. Final corner at turn 14 for the 2 of Guillaume Exposito, and he's going to come off that final corner. And from 10th on the grid, the driver, the number 2, Guillaume Exposito, is going to win the final round of Season 3 2019 in your iRacing Pro Mazda Championship Series here in the second split special broadcast. Guillaume Exposito, job well done for him. Richard Colombo is going to cycle into that second spot. 17 or so seconds on back. Up and down race for him. He'll come across the stripe to finish P2. Anders Fromm will be the next driver to hit the start finish. And off the final corner, Anders Fromm started from 5th, moves his way up to 3rd. He'll finish there. Then we have a sequence of drivers that started deep in the order, coming from 13th on the grid, made as many passes as Mr. Guillaume Exposito did from 13th on the grid to get his way up in towards P4, up 9 spots for himself. Jose Miguel Lopez, same story here, started 14th. He's going to end up in the 5th position. He's still down at Canada Corner, but he's moved up quite a lot of spots, and Bob Karst as well. He's about 30 seconds on back. We saw him. So we'll watch Jose Miguel Lopez. Make sure there's no drama here for all the drivers in towards our top 5. And up the hill is going to go Jose Miguel Lopez, and he will round out our top 5 finishers here today at Road America. And with that, let's cue some music. Let's go down your finish results here today at Road America. Julian Exposito is the surprise winner. After drama everywhere, Richard Colombo will finish in the 2nd spot with Anders Fromm rounding out your top 3. Gary Bystrom in 4th, and Jose Miguel Lopez round out your top 5. Bob Karsten 6th. We saw him on screen a couple times, involved in some drama at the carousel, but don't think that was entirely his fault either. Lewis Cannell in the 7th spot. Dan Killian, and well, let's get into some of the drama. Gonzalo Maciel Caceres, driver who is dominating this race, looking so strong at the head of the field, just boom, caught the motor, and that was it, with Gero Roldan rounding out your top 10. Got George Ellemans in the 11th spot, Finn Peace in 12th, David Avila in 13th, Asger Albertson, driver who started in 2nd in this race here today, was out near the head of the field fighting for the race win for turn 1, got loose, made contact with the driver, that number 10, Gonzalo Caceres. Saw him end his race early and finished P14 with Andy Chadbourne and Jerry Laughlin rounding out the order here today. Sorry for a couple of the hiccups here tonight on RaceSpotTV, purely my fault. Once again, spacing out that this championship now was doing standing starts and not rolling, and missing out on the grid there, thinking I had about 4 minutes to work with. And then, of course, I am missing out, ending up in the 2nd split. This is a great camera angle. Oh, you get a little bit of the track there. Let's see if we can change this. Oh, there it goes. It updates. So regardless, thank you for joining us here today during the RaceSpotTV Pro Mazda Championship. Well, it's been an awesome broadcast. All the guys as well have been doing a great show at the Sim Racing Expo. That's getting ready to come to a close here in 2019. Our entire team is out there in Germany. I'm the only producer we have on hand, so you've been seeing a lot of Randy Chineth thus far this week. We have the likes of Paul, Hugo, Will. Yes, Hugo's there from Brazil. Will are all out there. Those are all, of course, our typical producers. Tobias Brockman also will pick up some camera work from time to time, but he's out there helping out as well. Then you also have, of course, Connery Maddock out there assisting with the Sim Racing Expo as always. But it's been myself, Randy Chineth, running the camera work, doing the commentary, loading into the wrong sessions for you here today with Istvan Ballo, TrackCams22.com. Huge shout out for them. The camera packs we use for majority of our RaceSpot events made by him. And that is going to do it for us here on RaceSpotTV for the Pro Mazda Series in Season 3 of 2019. We will and are expecting a Pro Mazda special event in Week 13, so we'll have to wait and see for more info on that as we get ready for the big build release that sees a ton of new content coming. So from everyone else and from myself here, Randy Chineth, we hope to see you all next time. Bye-bye.